Oh, she is beautiful, but she's La Reina.
La Reina. Wow.
Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up when the clouds are far behind me, where trouble melts like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me, somewhere over the rainbow. Birds fly over the rainbow. Why, then why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly, why, oh, why can't I?
Good morning. Our opening words this morning are by Marianne Hagton Cotter. Welcome to this place of possibility. This is love's hearth, the home of hope, a refuge for minds in search of truth unfolding, ever beautiful, ever strange. Here, compassion is our shelter, freedom our protection. From the storms of bigotry and hate, in this abode may we find comfort and courage. Here may our sight become vision to see the unseen, to glimpse the good that is yet to be. My name is Matt Alspaugh, and I'm glad you're here with us. Now, the announcements were on a slideshow that was up before the service. If you didn't see them, don't worry. I'll post them tomorrow in my sharing. And so I just want to welcome you with, live from Fellowship Hall, this is our LCUUF Sunday service. So let's do a little activity. Open a browser on your computer, or if you have a tablet or a phone or device, and type in this web address, menti.com. That's menti.com. Now, some of you are thinking, how can I get over and still stay in Zoom? Well, if you drop out of Zoom, that's okay. Just come back in. I'm sure that you've already done that at least once or twice over the course of these services, as the internet has been flaky at times. It's a little easier to do this on a device, separate from the Zoom connection, but you can multitask. So go to Zoom, go to this menti.com menti.com, and it'll say, it'll have a space to put in a number, and put in the number that's at the top of the screen right now. That number is 2148857. And when you do that, you're going to pop up a little message that says, "How are you feeling today?" And there'll be 3 boxes where you can type in your answers. Oftentimes we're feeling multiple different feelings, so you get up to 3. Just 1 or 2 word answers. How are you feeling today? Now also, if you're having trouble with that, then just type those words into chat, and we will try to pop those words up into Menti for you. And we're already seeing some of them come up on the screen. And we're seeing a lot of folks being happy. The words get bigger when there are more people putting things in, but also interested, concerned, engaged, excited, content. Let's see, some of these words are a little hard for me to read. Calm, more happy, more happy. Content got bigger, anxious got bigger. Maybe the anxious is from some of the folks working in this room here. Okay, I'll just pause a little bit more as you type in, and we may return to this in a little bit, but getting quite a variety of words up here. Somebody's hungry. Somebody's glad to be in a heek. Upbeat, yeah, okay. We're going to continue, but please go ahead and add things. We will return to this word cloud in a little bit.
Our chalice lighting words today are by Deborah Falk. We seek our place in the world and the answers to our heart's deep questions. As we seek, may our hearts be open to unexpected answers. May the light of our chalice remind us that this is a community of warmth, of wisdom, and welcoming of multiple truths. Please light your chalice. And let us sing these words together.
We kindle this light in celebration for the life that we share.
Our opening hymn is "Come, Thou Fount of Every Blessing."
Come thou fount of every blessing, turn our hearts to sing thy praise. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. While the hope of life's perfection fills our heart with joys and love, is begun.
Let's take a look at this minty again. I'm going to ask Colleen to pop it up. Yeah, excellent. And so we're seeing a few more possibilities popping up here. Bored with isolation, and another person probably also feeling isolation, but saying experiencing equanimity. So environmentally limited, expeditious. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. Just all kind of things going on out there. Somebody's achy too. Somebody else is tired, but somebody else is rested and somebody else is upbeat. So there you go. Now we'll move on to joys and sorrows.
We take time to remind ourselves that we belong to a community which cares for each other. We do this by sharing any significant joys or sorrows in our lives. If you have a joy or sorrow to share today, you can type it into the chat now and we'll read those aloud. First, let us voice our sorrows or concerns, whatever you or the world may be holding that is in need of our healing and caring thoughts. You're welcome to type sorrows and concerns in the chat box.
No concerns or sorrows.
Now let us recall the joys. Whatever you may be celebrating, whatever evokes a feeling of joy or peace for yourself or others, you are welcome to type joys in the chat box.
We have a joy from Liz Mulder. She says, I'm back. Missed a couple of services due to my computer ineptitude, but a couple of you viewers helped me get back in. I was surprised how much I miss these very fine services. Another joy from Jude Dolphin. She's expressing joy for Matt's birthday.
And this candle from our care team represents those sorrows that are too raw, too difficult for us to share aloud. So many of us have had losses, partners, children, grandchildren, losses that remain present with us every day. We will light this candle for all those unspoken sorrows. Sorry.
And now I just want to invite you into a time of silent meditation. Just a brief minute or so. Find yourself getting comfortable in your chair or on the floor or in your bed, wherever you happen to be. Just relax your body and feel the heaviness of your body as it settles, sinks in. And now turn to the breath. The in-breath, the out-breath. Just notice the breath. And let's just take some time to be with ourselves. Noticing that breath, noticing other parts of our body, just for a minute or so. And now let us return to this time and place to be together with each other.
Hi, I'm Joan. Last Sunday, we heard a reading by Becky Brooks, Tiny the God. Tiny was a very small, itsy-bitsy god amongst many larger gods. She felt insignificant and looked for something to make her existence more meaningful. She observed people and found that they really loved to hear her quiet message, "You are not alone." She whispered it like a slight breeze into the minds of others. They loved it and were comforted by it. Then Tiny noticed Miriam, who was not comforted, but was agitated as she felt the connection to all around her. Many were struggling. She added action to help others. You are not alone, and I can help. Tiny also began to do things to help. Her messages sent out became, you are not alone, I am here, and I can help. Hearing this story reconnected me to a day over 6 years ago when I was going through a tough time for me. Let me go back a little bit in my history. In 2011, I was living in Minneapolis, Minnesota again after having lived in beautiful Baja California, just north of Ensenada, for 7 years. I was comfortable in Minnesota, but I was not content. I was missing Mexico. Then I visited Ajijic for my first time. It was so welcoming, so energetic, full of stimulating activities and people and colors and music, and it was full of life. I decided to return to Mexico. Once here, I settled in. I served a few boards, enjoyed making new friends, discovered wonderful music and food, and explored lakeside and other parts of Mexico. I was so grateful to be here. Years later, in 2016, I found my life turned upside down in very stressful ways. I withdrew from most volunteer work and some friends as I struggled with health challenges, a severed partnership, and finally a rough bout with dengue fever. I was tired, alone, and worried, and I felt so vulnerable and truly wondered if I could continue to live here on my own. I was blind to all the wonderful parts of living here and to the support I actually had. I was withdrawing. One day, a short note arrived with my emails. It was an unexpected note. It came from a member of the LCUUF Care Committee, telling me she had heard I was not well and offered a kind word and help if I needed it. To me, a non-member. That note was like a fresh breeze that whispered, you are not alone. We are here and can help. Just a simple act, but it got my attention and woke me to see other wonderful offers of support and caring that I had been unable to receive. I'll never forget that email and that small but powerful contact. When I got well and strong once again, I remembered this note and within months began to attend the UU Fellowship. I returned for great services presented by members each week. I enjoyed meeting such caring, diverse people coming together. I decided to join, and they let me. Being a part of this fellowship community is an important part of my life now. 4 years have passed, membership grew, and Matt Alspaugh, our amazing halftime minister, joined us. That's 12 hours a day for halftime. We expanded our outreach efforts, our Share the Basket. We wore our UU Amor t-shirts and joined with others for social justice in Mexico and elsewhere. We have great Sunday services. They continue to engage more members and guests. Toward the end of 2019, membership grew so much that thoughts of a new fellowship space was on our mind. We talked about what we needed and wanted into our next 10 years. We got input from groups, checked out options, built budgets, clarified our visions for the future. No matter what we considered, one critical need always showed up. Funds, finances, pesos, money, dollars, dinero. Fortunately, the weekly offerings kept growing, and our friends of the fellowship kept paying our rent. And our pledge team had led a successful annual pledge drive again. Then zap. Life changed dramatically around the world. COVID-19 came, the pandemic, the quarantines, the shutdowns, the isolation. No more fellowship meetings together in any space. Many people left Mexico. Fears rose and people around us struggled. What could we do? So many unknowns. I was amazed at the rapid response that Rev Matt and a few techie volunteers, fellowship members, were able to put together, and they have brought us live from Fellowship Hall every Sunday morning since March. Amazing. You are not alone. We have kept our fellowship connected via Zoom, something I had never even heard of before, but it's become the essential link for so many of us. Our fellowship and guests are still able to be together, whether we're at Lakeside or back up north. We can do this in the future. We are here and can help. LCUUF has stepped up donations to local groups and critical food distribution programs, helped so many deal with losses, loneliness, and other concerns. We've stayed together during these stressful times, and it's good practice to continue into our future, I think. Back to pledging. Why do I pledge? Well, it makes life simpler for me. I like it simple. And it provides a predictable budget for the fellowship. I pledge what I can to be certain that LCUUF continues to be here to serve, to keep sending that important message of you are not alone and we are here and can help. I pledge because it is the right thing for me to do, to support the fellowship and our wider community. True, this can be done through other organizations or on one's own, but I choose to be a part of this spirited community as we work together to improve lives at Lakeside and beyond. It helps me be a better me. Now, let's look at our wonderful graphic by Joan Bellamy and see our pledge drive update. Our pledge thermometer, is it showing? Okay, our pledge thermometer shows we have received 577,910 pesos to date as of November 13th toward our pledge goal of 700,000 pesos. That's a little over 82%. This represents pledges from 24 pledge units. And a pledge unit is either a single person or a couple who pledges together. Now, for you to make your pledge for 2021-22 fiscal year, look at the information on your screen. To make your pledge, please submit your pledge by sending an email to Lorna Dean, lmdean695@gmail.com. State that your pledge to LCUUF is a specific amount, annual, in US, Canadian dollars, or pesos. Put your full name in the email. If a couple is pledging together, put both names in the email. And this will be posted on the LCUUF website with the video from today, if it's talking too quickly. Thank you very much for your support and commitment.
Now, this is the time in our service when we ask that you remember that we share our gifts here through pledging and donations. We're not meeting in person now, but our connections to each other, our contributions to the community continue. Instructions for payments to the fellowship are on a slide during the announcements every week. And while you are considering your gifts to the fellowship, remember that each month LCUUF donates 5,000 pesos or more to an organization providing food aid in our Lakeside community. When you make your pledge, please add something for Share the Basket, as you used to place pesos in our physical basket. You can donate in the same way that you pay your pledge, but please donate Share the Basket separately, or indicate what part of your donation is for Share the Basket. Your offerings are gratefully received. Our reading is by Robert Bly. The reading is by the poet Robert Bly in a poem called Things to Think. Think in ways you've never thought before. If the phone rings, think of it as carrying a message larger than anything you've ever heard, vaster than 100 lines of Yeats. Think that someone might bring a bear to your door, maybe wounded and deranged. Or think that a moose has risen out of the lake and he's carrying on his antlers a child of your own whom you've never seen. When someone knocks on the door, think that he's about to give you something large, tell you you're forgiven, or that it's not necessary to work all the time, or that it's been decided that if you lie down, no one will die.
Sorry, I lost my place. You know, you got to put page numbers on your pages. Here we go. Things to think. Think about something large. Oftentimes, possibility is about something that starts small and grows. In the book, The Impossible Will Take a Little While, author Paul Loeb tells of a friend who attended the early protests against nuclear testing. So this is back in the 1960s. Just a small number of women stood in the rain in front of the White House protesting. She felt frustrated, this friend did, that they were getting nowhere. But later, the movement had grown much larger, and at a huge protest, the famous pediatrician and activist Dr. Benjamin Spock addressed the gathering. He told them of seeing this tiny group of women protesting years earlier. And he realized, as he said, if these women are out there in the rain, their cause must be really important. So he explored and joined that movement, which ultimately led to the nuclear test ban. Think in ways you've never thought before. Possibility sometimes flows in unexpected directions. Think of climate change. I recently heard about an electric power company in northern Indiana, you know, one of those red states that voted heavily for Trump both times. And this particular power company is 65% coal powered. And they have decided in the next 5 years to shut down all of their coal power plants and replace that power with solar and batteries and demand management. Now, these are not a bunch of enviros at this plant. It's a typical investor-owned power company traded on the stock market. So their motivation is purely about money. And they've decided that they can save their customers $4 billion by doing this switchover in the next 5 years. It's one example of a larger trend where solar and wind are proving to be cheaper as well as better for all of us. Environmentalist Bill McKibben wrote about Curitiba, a city of about 2 billion people in Brazil. Curitiba is now called the greenest city on the earth. It has avoided the gridlock and pollution that is so common in most developing world cities of this size. Again, Robert Bly, when someone knocks on the door, think he is about to give you something large. It turns out that much of the innovation in Curitiba happened under the watch of Curitiba activist Jamie Lerner, who in a strange turn of events became mayor of the city. He started by focusing on people rather than on cars. Lerner tells of trying to implement the first pedestrian mall in Brazil, starting with just one city block. Since no one had heard of pedestrian malls, he said, I knew we'd have a big fight. I had to convince the store owners that a pedestrian mall would be good for them. Because there were no other pedestrian malls in Brazil, I knew that they had to have a chance to actually see it before they would be able to love it. So Lerner did the project on the lam. His city employees crammed 2 months of work into one weekend. He continues, I said, let's start Friday night, and we have to finish by Monday morning. And they did, jackhammering the pavement, putting down cobblestones, erecting streetlights and kiosks, and putting in tens of thousands of flowers. It was a success. Even by midday that first Monday, shopkeepers who had been opposing the idea were petitioning to extend the mall. They continued to innovate. Instead of putting in concrete flood control ditches, which would have been funded by the federal government, they built floodplain parks along the rivers in the town, vastly expanding the green footprint of the town. Instead of building an expensive light rail system, they adapted concepts from light rail to buses, inventing what they called bus rapid transit. Bus passengers pay and board from raised, enclosed platforms, so stops are quick, and the buses have dedicated lanes on the streets, achieving efficiencies close to that of light rail. Bus rapid transit is now used in 150 cities worldwide, including Guadalajara with its macrobus system. Think in ways you never thought before. Curitiba did, with amazing results. So let's return to Minty and do something else with this. I want to ask you the question, what is possible for the world in the coming years? And again, you've got the information on the screen. Go to minty.com and put in that same number. Again, up to 3 things, and I'm looking for the number here. I thought I had it on my thing. There it is. It's 21, 48, 85, 7. I'll repeat that again. Go to minty.com and put in the number 21, 48, 85, 7. And again, you may want to keep your messages short. I think one got kind of cut off there. So just a few words. And we're starting to see a lot of them coming up here. Let me see here. Hear me. Preparedness, peace, change. And again, if Minty work, just type some words into chat, whatever you think might be possible in the coming years, and our people will input them into Minty for you. Let's see what we've got else going on. Hope. Hope is right next to worry. Know how they moved apart. And hope. Peace is the big one. I'm glad to see that. I'm glad to think that people are hoping for peace. Change is a possibility. Women in power, guaranteed income, reconciliation, no walls, chaos and famine, transition. More heat is going to be coming in. I see it elsewhere. Ecological change. Great, great. And so we'll be returning to that in a few moments, but right now we have a reading. Continue to put things into the Minty.
Our next reading is by Victoria Safford. I have a friend who traffics in words. She's not a minister, but a psychiatrist in the health clinic at a prestigious women's college. We were sitting once not long after a student she had known and counseled committed suicide in the dormitory there. My friend, the doctor, the healer, held the loss very closely in those first few days, not unprofessionally, but deeply, fully, as you or I would have, had this been someone in our care. At one point, with tears streaming down her face, she looked up in defiance. This is the only word for it. And spoke explicitly of her vocation, as if out of the ashes of that day, she was renewing a vow or making a new covenant. And I think that she was. She spoke explicitly of her vocation and of yours and mine. She said, "You know I cannot save them. I'm not here to save anybody or to save the world. All I can do, what I am called to do, is to plant myself at the gates of hope. Sometimes they come in, sometimes they walk by. But I stand there every day and I call out till my lungs are sore with calling and beckon and urge them in toward beautiful life and love."
As some of you have pointed out in the Minty Cloud, possibility is not just about good things. And if I implied that in the first part of my talk, I didn't mean to mislead you. If anything, we've had a huge lesson in the complexity of possibility this year with the COVID pandemic. It's funny, people have anthropomorphized the SARS-CoV-2 virus, suggesting that it is smart or wily or devilish. It's none of that. It just exploits possibility. And that's what makes it so hard for us to deal with. We want certainty. We want clarity. And that's not the nature of this life form. I believe a huge part of our failure to contain and manage this pandemic is because we are so focused on black and white thinking. We want things to be neat and sorted out, even when they cannot be. So earlier on, we were told that masks were not beneficial, and then later we were told that they were. Early on, we were told that this virus was very likely to be spread by contact, and so many of us began wiping down everything. And we were told that the virus could travel incredible distances, many yards due to a sneeze, and even that flushing a toilet could disperse viruses into the air. So some of us stopped flushing. No, I'm kidding. My point is that most of these things turned out to be true, but that did not lead to certainty. It's possible to get the disease by contact, but it's rare. Same with toilets. What does seem more likely is community spread in large, unmasked indoor gatherings. It's possible that a single person can infect dozens, even hundreds of people in such situations. But we love black and white thinking, so we're polarized into the masked versus the unmasked, those that gather on Zoom versus those that gather in person, those who want to keep at least some activities off limits versus those who want to throw everything open. And the virus is saying to us, hey, I'm anthropomorphizing here, hey, look, people, I am all about possibility. Don't try to make me black and white. If you want this situation to get better, you will have to learn to think differently. And even when you're done with me, remember, my name is SARS-CoV-2, and soon there will be a SARS-CoV-3. So be ready. And so in the realm of horrible possibilities, we've had to face many in the course of our lives. Thermonuclear war, economic collapse, climate change, untreatable infections by superbugs, rising fascism. You can add many more to this depressing list. And yet somehow we live with the shadow of horrible possibility. We get up each day, we dress, we make breakfast, we work, we visit with friends, we live our lives. Somehow we quiet the part of our heart that would love to dwell in this horror. We set aside the worry, the doubt, and we just live. And we do more than just live. We find a maturity in our existence, as the psychiatrist in our reading did, knowing that she could not with certainty save her clients. For her, every encounter could end with the horrible possibility of suicide. But as with her, that doesn't mean that we give up. Instead, we too look at those around us, and with great compassion, we stand there every day and call out till our lungs are sore with calling, and beckon and urge them towards beautiful life and love. We find them in the possibility of a beautiful life in a better world created by our care. So now let's look at our word cloud again and see if it's changed. It looks like a lot more stuff popped up on here. Millennials save the world. End racist structures. Collective responsibility. Young people in government. More plant-based meat. Cross-cultural friendships. Understanding immigrants. No fossil fuels. Hope for children. Love. Agreement. No walls. Justice. Preparedness. Innovation, healthcare, finance, it's all kind of good stuff. And universal health, I think I missed that one. Yeah. Okay. Now we have another reading.
This reading is by Howard Zinn. To be hopeful in bad times is not just foolishly romantic. It is based on the fact that human history is a history not only of cruelty, but also of compassion, sacrifice, courage, and kindness. What we choose to emphasize in this complex history will determine our lives. If we see only the worst, it destroys our capacity to do something. If we remember those times and places, and there are so many, when people have behaved magnificently, this gives us the energy to act, and at least the possibility of sending the spinning top of a world in a different direction. And if we do act in however small a way, we don't have to wait for some grand utopian future. The future is an infinite succession of presents, and to live now as we think human beings should live, in defiance of all that is bad around us, is itself a marvelous victory.
So in all of this complexity of possibility, where are we? What is our part? How can we have hope when it seems like so much is crashing around us? More importantly, how can we keep acting, striving for change when all we do is encounter more obstacles in our path? Howard Zinn tells us, don't look for a moment of total triumph. See engagement as an ongoing struggle with victories and defeats, but in the long run, so slow progress. So you need patience and persistence. Understand that even when you don't win, there is fun and fulfillment in the fact that you have been involved with other good people in something worthwhile. You need hope. So I emphasize his point of being involved with other good people in supporting something worthwhile. Hope is amplified when it flows from person to person. So working with others, working in community is paramount. Whether we're working for political change or the environment or caring for local children, it's so much more rewarding working with others, finding or creating community in which to do the work. There is a favorite poem of mine, a powerful poem by the writer and consultant Margaret Wheatley. I even had a framed copy of it in my office when I had an office. I resonate with what Wheatley says about community. Let me read that poem now. There is no power greater than a community discovering what it cares about. Ask what's possible, not what's wrong. Keep asking. Notice what you care about. Assume that many others share your dreams. Be brave enough to start a conversation that matters. Talk to people you know. Talk to people you don't know. Talk to people you have never talked to. Be intrigued by the differences you hear. Expect to be surprised. Treasure curiosity more than certainty. Invite everyone in who cares to work on what's possible. Acknowledge that everyone is an expert about something. Know that creative solutions come from new connections. Remember, you don't fear people you don't know, whose story you don't know. Real listening always brings people closer together. Trust that meaningful conversations can change your world. Rely on human goodness. Stay together.
Let us extinguish our chalices with these words, which we read together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we keep in our hearts and share with all the world. Now for our postlude.
Our closing words are by Reverend Michael Schuler. We have reached the end of this time for the gathering of memory and for letting the imagination play with future possibilities. We have enjoyed magic moments and edified each other. Shall it be concluded then? Or will this adventure now commenced continue? Our separate paths converging, meeting, merging in the unending quest for love more perfect, the joyous struggle for meaning more sufficient and life more abundant. Is this ending to be an ending or merely prelude to new, more glorious beginnings? I pose the question. In your heart lies the answer. And now our postlude.
Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. A river running free, you know how I feel. Blossom on the tree, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling dragonfly out in the sun, you know what I mean, don't you know? Butterflies all having fun, you know what I mean. Sleep in peace when day is done, that's what I mean. And this whole world is a new world, and a bold